Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous, Lich, Unfair build. The build is valid for unfair difficulty, and if it works on unfair, it will work on all other difficulties as well. What I'm gonna give you in this video is my main character that I finished the game with. How freaking OP was the build? Well, I got sadistic game design achievement on unfair difficulty, and the requirement was core or above, so this is extremely OP build. This is a Wizard Lich. The version of the game that I'm giving this build for is summer 2025, so this is updated to the max. Anyways, let's not waste time and let's go. So, what we do with our Lich, we pick a Wizard Necromancer, then we're gonna take Dampier. From the subclass we're taking Vetala-born Dampier. From the background we're gonna take Scholar Arcane in the character creation. Then, as far as the ability points go, 17 into strength, 19 into intelligence, 13 into charisma, everything else goes with 10, strength, con, and wisdom. For the skill points, this is very simple. We're going with Arcana, World, Religion, and use Magic Device. And whenever you level up, this is what you want to invest in, and nothing else. Later on, when you get extra points, you can put them into Lore, Nature. That's about it with skill points for the Lich. For the first feat in the character creation screen, we're gonna take Spell Focus, of course, into Necromancy. And for the second feat, we're taking Spell Penetration. For the opposition schools, we pick Transmutation and Divination. And we say next. Now, as far as the first tier of spells go, we take Ray of Enfeeblement, Ray of Sickening, Grease, Incendiary Runes, Mage Armor, Magic Missile, and Protection from Alignment. The thing you're gonna use the most in the early game is, of course, Magic Missiles. For the deity, we're gonna pick Werglia, cause we're gonna be undead Lich. Yeah, so it fits that you pick Werglia. As far as the alignment go, we're gonna go with Lawful Evil. So prepare for an evil run and evil choices. That would be the character creation screen. Now we go to the classic leveling. Classic leveling for Wizard Necromancer Lich is very basic. So we start off with Necromancy at the character creation. On level 3 we're taking greater spell focus into Necromancy. On level 5 we're taking Shake It Off, as well as taking Shake It Off on all companions, okay, for the extra saving throws. On level 7, we're taking Greater Spell Penetration. On level 9, we're taking Allied Spellcaster, especially since we're gonna have a lot of spellcasters around us. On level 11, we're taking Greater Dispel Focus. On level 13, we're taking Destructive Dispel. On level 15, we're taking Spell Chain. On level 17, we're taking Meta Magic with Selective Spell. And on level 19, we're taking Iron Will. That would be the classic feats leveling. Now, for the Wizard flat leveling, aside from the spells that he gets for free, on level 5, we're gonna take Commanding Infusion, and on level 10, we're gonna take Dispel Focus, so on level 11, we take Greater Dispel Focus immediately, and on level 15, we're taking Meta Magic with Persistent Spell, and the final thing we're gonna get is the Perfect Infusion. Yeah, that's about it with leveling. This is very simple for a Lich, cause Lich learns all of the spells on its own. I'll show you what spells to learn very soon, and what's the most important. How do we go with abilities? We go full intelligence always when we can, until it's a flat number, okay? And same goes with charisma. So the most important stats on a Lich are intelligence and charisma later on, because charisma gives you extra health as an undead. But until that point, you don't need charisma that much until you become a Lich in Act 5. So you're gonna need to take intelligence and dexterity till Act 5. After that, you focus on charisma. Items that give you charisma, yeah. Now, as far as special abilities go, I will hover and you can stop and check every special ability that you can learn throughout the entire game. Okay, so stop when you want to. This is all that I got from my unfair run on the Lich. All special abilities, basically. As far as the feeds go, you can see them all here. Pause when you want to. These are all the feeds that you need on a Wizard Lich. And as far as the traits go, these would be your traits. Now, the final stats should look like this. The thing that you need the most on a Lich is high will. So check the items early on that give you will. You don't want to get dominated and charmed. Yeah, will is the most important saving throw on a Lich. After will, it's of course reflex to dodge some spells and so on, and the last one is fortitude. You don't need fortitude as a Lich. Also, armor class doesn't matter at all on a Lich, as well as attack and flat damage. All of these numbers don't matter at all. You're a caster. For the skills, this is very simple. You max out Arcana, World, Use Magic Device, Nature, and Religion, and that's about it. On every level, you're gonna max those 5. Now comes the part of the Mythic path where we become a Lich. So, Dance Macabre, bypass epic damage reduction, and the very first thing that we're gonna learn is Less Stand. No other thing. This is the most OP thing that exists in the Mythic path, and you learn it first on every single character, including the Lich. Yeah. On level 2, we go with a Summon Spectre, hard to kill, negative energy insight, and we're gonna learn the feat called Expanded Arsenal with Abjuration. Why Abjuration? Because we're gonna use Necromancy and Abjuration spells. These spells self buffs, huge AoE damage plus all necromancy spells. That's the entire point of this build, and this is how you one-shot everything that exists with Abjuration Necromancy combo. For the level 3, we're learning Deadly Magic. This is what buffs our spells like crazy. And we're gonna get Skeletal Marksman, because it's the best freaking skelly pal that you can get on a Lich. Skelly hurts like crazy. And one extra ranged character is always good to have. For the feat, we're taking Abundant Casting, so we have more spells from level 1 to level 3. And we're gonna get Summon Fallen as well. On level 4, we're taking Skeletal Fighter 1. We upgrade our Marksman, yeah. We're taking Weapon Focus on a Heavy Crossbow. This is whatever, to be honest, you can take whatever you like. We are taking Weapon Training with Bows. This is extremely important on a Skelly. And for the feat, we're taking Spell Focus Mythic Necromancy. Our Necromancy spells will be even more powerful. Here we're also gonna get Lord Beyond the Grave. We're getting Summon Plague Mastodon. And we're taking the bonus combat feat, which would be Outflank. On level 5 Mythic, we are receiving the Lord of Death, and we're getting improved Abundant Casting. Now we can cast extra spells from level 3 to level 6. And we can summon more Plague-based Mastodons. And we also receive Dark Rites. Dark Rites is insane, so have in mind that this is your biggest power spike, especially when there's a lot of casters around your Lich, because caster level increases on everyone. On level 6, we're learning Magic Devourer. This is extremely important on level 6. Not only that you get spell resistant, you also gonna get quick, and you're gonna be able to spam spells during combat. For the feat, we're learning School Mastery into, of course, Necromancy. And we're gonna get a new summons. On level 7, we're taking and learning Greater Abundant Casting. And now we can spam spells like crazy, because this is from level 6 to level 9. And we're gonna get Nightshades as a summon. On level 8, we're gonna get Skeletal Bard. For the Skelly, he's gonna learn to sing as well as shooting. And for the feat, we're taking Mythic Spell Penetration. And we get a new summon. On level 9, we're learning the final ability, which is called Withering Life. Extremely good ability. No matter what spell you cast, you're gonna nuke enemies down. Or should I say, you're gonna nuke their abilities down with every single spell. Whether it's single target or AoE, this is insanely good thing to have. And we're gonna learn a favorite meta magic, which would be selective. At the end, we receive the final summon, which would be a undead dragon. For level 10, in front of Arilu, once you reach the mega late game, we're gonna learn skeletal magus, and we're gonna get mythic iron will. And that's how we end up the entire mythic leveling. The biggest power spike, of course, is when you get less stand and when you get dark rites. Alright, spellbook now. Cantrips, the only useful things would be dismiss spell and early on ray of frost and ignition, including the days. Everything else doesn't matter that much. For tier 1, the most important is, of course, magic missiles. And, of course, grease. During Act 1 and tutorial area, this two will carry you forward. The rest, you basically don't need the rest. On tier 2, what we get early in the game and for the late game, what's valid, it's mirror image and bone shaker. It's always good to have one bone fists, cause you raise armor on all allies, and if anyone else has protection from alignment communal, you don't need to take it. If no one in your team has this, then you need to take at least one, at least for early game. Basically, the most important is mirror image, and then you spam bone shaker. Tier 3 is where things get interesting, and when you start receiving your mythic spells as well. So early on in the game, the most important would be Animate Dead Lesser and Protection from Arrows Communal. Later on, Act 3 and above, you're gonna start using Explosive Runes, Mastery of Flesh, Corrupted Blood, and Dispel Magic. Dispel is extremely important. This is how you kill bosses in Act 1, 2, and 3. Later on, when you get Greater Dispel, we remove Classic Dispel and we play with Explosive Runes, Corrupted Blood, and Mastery of Flesh. These spells are the ones that you actually need for the late game, but Dispel Magic is great for early game. As far as resists go, Nenio, Diran, and Camellia can cover flat resist, so don't waste your points into this. I mean, do not waste your slots into this. Better go for flat damage. Tier 4. What will win you the most disgusting encounters on tier 4 is, of course, Eyes of the Bodak. All you need to do is cast Stealth or Invisibility on Lich, go with Eyes of Bodak, be patient for 2 minutes around enemies, and they gonna melt. Do not trigger the fight, sneak and melt them. That's how simple it is. This is what takes you through Act 2 and 3 easily. Okay, no problem, no fighting. You melt everyone with Eyes of Bodak. Later on in the game, Eyes of Bodak become useless because enemies are like level 30, 40, 50 plus, okay, and you cannot melt them. So we're gonna exchange Eyes of the Bodak and we're gonna get Bone Shatter everywhere. So Bone Shatter is the most important spell in the late game. Also, you can learn Consume Dead, have 2 slots for that, and of course, in the favorite school slot, we're putting Animate Dead on tier 4. This is basically everything that you need from tier 4. On tier 5, now things are changing, because finally you have one of the best single target spells in the game that's valid from tier 5 till the very end game. This is extremely good spell. You gotta learn big amount of it, so put at least 4 or 5 slots for the spell. And for the Bone Explosion, 2-3 spots. You also need some AoE, yeah. So these two are extremely important. In the mid game also you wanna have one repurpose, so you can dominate undead, dominate enemies, get a free companion. Later on you don't need it because you're gonna get more powerful versions of this. Okay, but these 3 spells are extremely important for, I can say, the entire game. Also, how you deal with enemies that strike multiple times, like Metalith. She strikes 12 times in a round, yeah. You cast Vampiric Shadow Shield, you cast Eye of Bodak, you go in her face, you got less stand, she's gonna suicide from Vampiric Shadow Shield. And then you extract your Lich, you use less stand, Metalith is dead, for example. And now your team can collect all others. Yeah, Vampiric Shadow Shield is hard carry in Act 4, or should I say in Alushinir. Tier 6. Now you remove classic dispel magic and you're gonna take dispel magic greater, cause this is the most important thing on tier 6. This is how you disable every hard fight in a game. You make them vulnerable to everything once you dispel all buffs from enemies, yeah. What is also important here is to have one bone shield to buff all allies, one false grace, two again buff all allies. Those two are extremely important, so basically the first row here is extremely important and everything else doesn't matter that much. You see what I took here and how I play: 3 dispels, 1 bone shield, 1 false grace, and now a bit of damage with a circle of death, a bit of healing and damage with inflict moderate wounds, and a bit of repulsion, and that's about it. You don't need anything else here. On tier 7 is, I can say, the big power spike, cause now we can use meta magic for the bone explosion, make it tier 7, so we play with 5 bone explosions and 6 times Feast of Blood. This damages demons, this damages demons and undead combined. So this is all you need basically here and nothing else. This two, you want flat damage on a Lich Wizard, and this two provide flat damage better than any other spell that you see here, so you only need to switch between these two and you're good to go. That's the tier 7 and a big power spike in terms of damage. How do you deal with those annoying crystals in a Lushinira? You need to remove all of these spells and you need to take banishment and one-shot crystals, you know, with hum that make you stunned forever. This is the only way to deal with them, and the only proper way to destroy crystals is with banishment, and that's the only time when you're gonna need banishment in the game. Extremely useful against a specific encounters. Tier 8, of course, it's the domain of the Hungry Flesh. Extremely powerful AoE spells that last forever. You need to position well for this, which I'll explain later on. And protection from spells, which is extremely great buff. You wanna cast this on yourself and on your companions that deal damage. You want them under spell protection. That would be Diran or Nenia. Embrace of Death is also great to have as a single target spell damage. The rest doesn't matter that much. The best one that you can take here is a Death Clutch, and that's about it. You see what spells I took here, copy paste, and you're good to go. Tier 9. The best freaking spell in a game on a Lich is Corrupt Magic. Corrupt Magic strips all enemies from all buffs and makes them a ragdolls. You can one-shot everything that exists once you use Corrupt Magic on bosses, mini bosses, tougher enemies, and so on. As you can see, I'm playing with 4 times Corrupt Magic at the end game, and trust me, there is no better spell in the game than Corrupt Magic, especially on a Lich. Aside from Corrupt Magic, we're gonna do Flay for Purpose as well. We need at least 1 or 2 Flay for Purpose so we can dominate enemies that we kill. Heroic Invocation, you only need 1 slot for it. It's a must. This is how you buff your entire team. And 1 slot for the Mind Blank Communal is how you also buff your entire team. You gotta have 1 Winds of Vengeance, because you buff yourself like that. And you don't need anything else. How you see it here is how it's supposed to look like for you as well. From the favorite school, 1 Wail of the Banshee, and all of this, just copy paste and you're good to go. Tier 10 and the final tier, there is nothing to think about. You need 1 Doom to Servitude, okay, the more powerful version of Flay for Purpose, and everything else goes into Absolute Death. Absolute Death one-shots everyone once you apply Corrupt Magic. I one-shotted a Rilu Warlash on Unfair. Combo was Corrupt Magic into Absolute Death. Believe it or not. I one-shotted every single boss in a game, to be more precise, with a combo of Corrupt Magic into Absolute Death. Absolute Death is the most OP thing in a game, the biggest power spike in a game. All you need to do is level up properly if you want it to work. I gave you full leveling, classic feats, mythic pot, plus the spells that you need to learn, and in what order and what's most useful. Once you reach the Absolute Death part, it's game over for enemies. if you copy paste this entire build. What about itemization on a Lich? From the consumables, we use the Covenant of the Inheritor, we use the Dragon, we use the Bismuth, we use Sovereign Dragon as well, and one empty slot for rods or scrolls. Yeah. Now, as far as the staffs go, we can use Plague of Madness, we can use Sin Mage stuff. Basically, we use any stuff that raises DC for spells, spell penetration, anything that provides any buff to spells. It doesn't matter what it is, we're gonna take that staff on a Lich. For the helmet, I use Jester Cap here, but you always wanna have something that gives intelligence, cause that's your main attribute later on in a game, something that gives all stats, so both intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, and on the mega late game it's a Jester's Cap, yeah. Or anything, mental perfection. It doesn't matter, as long as it gives all stats, you're good to go. This is the most powerful thing that you can get on a Lich, Jester's Cap. Goggles of Pure Sight. Why do I say Goggles of Pure Sight? This is very simple. Okay, here, for the Lich, once you use the goggles, and once you use this spell or corrupt magic, you're gonna disable all buffs from enemies, and this is how everything works, and then you cast Absolute Death and you wipe the floor with them. That's why the goggles. For the cape, Wrath of the Undead, but basically everything that's gonna give you saves, okay, saving throws, fortitude, reflex, will, is the thing that you wanna equip until you find Wrath of the Undead in Act 5. I think it was in Ineluctable Prison, so that's the caves that you wanna use. For the rings, the 7 virtues of a true ruler would be the first ring, and the second ring would be the Elemental Protector. There's a lot of great rings in the game, same applies like what I said for helmet and cape. Everything that's gonna give you something that boosts necromancy, abjuration, spells, DC, saving throws, that's the thing you wanna use on a Lich. You don't need rings that give you armor and so on. Armor doesn't matter on a Lich at all. You're gonna be safe non-stop, plus you got less stat. So these 2 rings are the rings that you wanna use. Also, what I was using rings for summons. I was using Ring of the Dead. Then I was using belt for the summons, like Belt of Demonic Shadow, early game, and so on. There's plenty of things that you can use on a Lich, but this is the final thing that you're gonna use. For the gloves, Swallowtail Bracers for the saving throws. For amulet, we go with the Hearthstone of the Night Hag Queen. Spell resist is what we go for here, and the DC of all spells. The WotR cast increases by 3, extremely powerful. Again, same what I said about items, what stats you search for, that's the same stats that you search for on amulet early and mid game as well. This is late game amulet. Armor, it's always Haramaki, in this case it's of the Divine Guidance, and for the robe, we're gonna use Robe of the 7 Sins on a Lich. For the belt, I was using Belt of Physical Perfection, even though you don't need it. Basically you can also go with a Belt of Demonic Shadow during the entire game. Okay, because of the extra summon, very few enemies can actually hurt the shadow, and that's why it's so freaking great, especially during Act 2 and Act 3 and in Alushinira. As far as the gloves go, we're gonna go with the star embroidered gloves, and for the boots, it's Free Dancer's boots. That would be the itemization for the Lich. Again, raise DC, raise spell resist, raise necromancy, raise abjuration. Those are the stats. Intelligence and charisma. Those are the stats that you want to have on items when you play as a Lich, as you make progress through the game. Tips on how to play Lich. Very simple. You see the buffs? Now, in what order you cast them? You use Mind Black Communal, Heroic Invocation, Bone Shield, False Grace, Bone Fists, Mirror Image. Then you go here, click on a ring, use the 7 virtues, Humility, get out, press the Goggles of Pure Sight, go with Inevitable Fate. Then here on tier 9, you're gonna go with Winds of Vengeance. Then you're gonna use Vampiric Shadow Shield. Then you're gonna use Eyes of Bodak, and you enter the fight. Also, you can open up fights by preparing fights with Domain of Hungry Flesh. You cast it like, I don't know, spam it like 2, 3 times. And then you trigger enemies with, for example, Circle of Death. And now they start running toward, they enter this, you spam a bit of the Fist of Blood, or you go with a Bone Explosion, doesn't matter if it's meta magic Bone Explosion or a flat one, and that's about it. Okay, that's for the late game. Early game, very simple, you stay behind, you spam magic missiles, you spam grease. You use mirror image, you spam Bone Shaker. That's all early game. You put traps with explosive runes, you summon animate dead. That's Act 1 and the mid of Act 2. Act 2, Act 3, Eyes of the Bodak. You make you invisible with Nenio, for example, greater invisibility or flat invisibility, and then you use the item that gives you invisibility, you raise stealth to max. You cast Eyes of the Bodak. You stand close to enemies. You drink your coffee, set the game free, and you see how enemies melt. That's about it. When you fight bosses, do not forget to use Dispel Magic or to use the Corrupt Magic. And after that, it's whatever. You can cast Embrace of Death. You can cast this one as well. You can go with Doom to Servitude. You want to one-shot bosses. It's absolute death, and that's about it. Lich is very simple to play. I can't explain every single combo in a guide, but you have everything on my channel. Live tab on my YouTube channel, the entire Lich playthrough, so you can see what I was using. Depends on a fight. Every fight is different in a game, and there's thousands of fights. So check out some of my live videos if you really wanna master the Lich. Anyways, that would be all for the Lich build for unfair difficulty. If you found this video helpful, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you on the next one. Thanks for watching.